Thank you for joining us for the 2014 ICEA PTech Praise Case Competition. Before we start, I'd like to introduce our team. My name is Cliff.
I'm Ashley. Alyssa Woods.
And I'm Rick.
And we'll be providing our case study on Amazon Primary. Now, before we start, I'd like to take a brief overview of what we'll be covering. First, we'll be covering our problem statement. Next, our current status of Amazon. They're from the Federal Aviation Association regulations on drones. Our implementation tactics. They're from a risk analysis covering all the associated risks that we might uncover with using drones. The potential market growth. The pros and cons. And finally, our word to the public and how we will convince the public that drones will be safe. Before you walk away and we conclude this briefing, we'd like to make sure we solve four main components of this case study. First, how is Amazon going to overcome the Federal Aviation regulations? What are the pros and cons of using drones for commercial purposes? The key success factors of our implementation tactics. And finally, how are we going to convey this idea to the public? Next, we will have Ashley covering our Amazon's current status.
Currently, Amazon uses third-party logistics such as UPS or FedEx. The way they utilize these third-party logistics is UPS or FedEx will come and bring their carriers to an Amazon fulfillment center. They will then package up their customers' packages and send them to the customers' homes. Also, they are testing the last mile delivery in San Francisco, which includes Amazon trucks, and the drivers will be Amazon contractors. This means that they're able to solve such problems as same-day deliveries, overnight deliveries, and more time-specific to customer needs. This will also solve the fact that using UPS and FedEx and other third-party logistics are increasing their shipping costs as a percentage of their sales. Alyssa will be talking about the FAA regulations now.
So the current FAA challenges that Amazon is coming against, the biggest one is that the commercial use of drones is currently illegal. There's 6 testing sites that the FAA has approved for testing drones. However, Amazon is trying to get a special permission to test at their Seattle location. They haven't heard a response yet, so one thing that they could do is go to one of the approved 6 testing sites and do their testing there instead of just waiting for approval from the FAA. There is good news though, and 6 grants have been allowed. These are all for aerial cinematography, so a little bit different industry, but still with the use of the drone. So that is promising news for Amazon. Amazon is also part of the Small UAV Coalition. And what this is a lobbyist group who's working with the White House and the FAA to try and get the policies moved along quicker. They're trying to convince Obama to give an executive order which would help get the policies quicker, or put in place quicker. So they're just at the tip of the iceberg as far as challenges go because policies have not been put in place. Once the FAA does start making policies, there'll be operational pilot and airworthiness requirements that Amazon will have to get approved for. There will also be very strict standards that Amazon is going to have to go through several testing phases in order to get the highest standards for safety, technological, and training and certifications for their pilots and pilot crews. Some of the important quotes that we found of people in the industry is the big paradox is that this is all about safety, but in order to make this safe, companies have to test. This kind of shows that the FAA is not allowing testing of drones except in those 6 sites. But if the companies can't test their drones, then they can't approve upon their safety. So if companies could work with the FAA, they maybe both could see an increase in productivity and they can get the regulations moved along quicker and safety standards improved. Another quote that we liked is, "We personally have the capability to solve so many of their problems." This just shows, again, that if the companies who want the commercial drone use to get approved and the FAA work together, they could solve a lot of the problems that they're seeing and get this approved quicker. So this is from the FAA, and this just shows that the major concerns for the aspect of commercial drone use for each category is policy number 1, certification requirements, and then standards. So that's the top of their concerns. So Amazon should also be concerned with those 3 as well. As far as the air traffic control system that would have to be in place before commercial drones could be flown, that's what this is about. And right now, there's actually Airwave and NASA who are partnering and doing a 4-year project on how the best air traffic control system can be done. But that is a 4-year project, so it's definitely still in the works. But you can also see that policy is the top of the list there. So Amazon's biggest challenge is just going to be policies, getting the policies moved through as quick as possible, and also allowing accommodation, integration, and evolution with these policies, which Rick is going to talk about more in the implementation factors.
So as far as implementation goes, Amazon's going to have to come up with their own flight control center. They need a full crew, as the FAA sees it, which includes maintenance people, pilots, and support staff. They're also going to need to invest in sense and avoid technology, which is the same as see and avoid technology for manned aircraft. It just prevents collisions and any hazards in that sense. The control and communication systems are how they'll actually communicate with the drones and how they'll override it. The pilots on staff can override it if it's about to collide with something. Again, Amazon's going to have to deal with lots of testing. They're always going to have to do testing and make sure that they're up to date with the FAA's regulations and standards. And then addressing the public and just ensuring them that this is going to be safe and that their privacy is intact. So this graph is actually also from the FAA. It shows that as the policies get hashed out, Amazon will be able to start testing their drones more and actually start flying them. In the first stage, which we'll call the accommodation stage, the FAA is starting their policies. They don't have any in place, and therefore the only drones that will be able to fly commercially are just experimental use drones that they have a permit for. As they move into the integration stage, there will be limited operational access, which means Amazon can test their drones in a target market and start delivering a few goods, but more just for the sense that the FAA can see how it's going to be done and ensure that it's safe. And then finally, as they move into the evolution stage, they'll have full operational access. This is when Amazon can actually roll out Amazon Prime Air, and they can start delivering packages via drones. So in the accommodation stage, this is where Amazon currently sits. They need to accommodate the FAA. They need to do whatever they need as far as testing, just trying to help them out and get the policies hashed out. Anything they can do as far as funding or providing them with drones, they just need to get the policies underway. They also need to form some alliances. As Alyssa said, they're part of the Small UAV Coalition. This can help expedite the policy, and this could help them get their Amazon Prime Air off the ground quicker. In the integration stage, the FAA will come out with their first round of policies, and Amazon needs to adapt to the regulations. They need to update their technology and systems to ensure that they're up to date and they're using the best practices across the industry. From here, they'll have limited operational access. As I said, they'll be able to start flying some drones and figuring out their logistics in that sense. Again, there'll be testing. Every stage is going to require copious amounts of testing just to ensure that they know how they're going to do everything correctly. And all of the pilots, crew, maintenance, everything like that's going to have to go under FAA training just to ensure that they're up to date with all the conduct and regulations. And finally, as they move into the evolution stage, they'll have full operational access. They can start flying all of their drones. The key to this is they need to be the first mover. In any new technology, the first mover gains market share quickly. They need to be the first people delivering packages. From there, they need to differentiate themselves from other companies who are doing this. Google just came out with their Project Wing, which they'll also be delivering packages via drones. So they need to differentiate themselves so customers choose them over other companies. And again, they're going to have to go into the public relations aspect from here and ensure the public that the cameras won't be used for anything that can compromise their privacy and that they're going to be safe and these things aren't going to be falling out of the sky. From here, I'll pass it off to Cliff, and he can go through the risk analysis.
So I'll be covering the risk analysis of the feasibility of using drones. So for the sake of time, I'll be covering the top 3 risks that Amazon will potentially face. So the first one, as Alyssa and Rick have covered, are the FAA regulations. And this is important because according to Amazon's website, Amazon is looking to go public with the drones in 2015. But according to our sources, is that currently Google, Amazon, as well as DJI and 3D Robotics, companies are creating a political action to actually make sure that this political action takes place by 2015, because nothing has moved currently right now with the FAA. Second, we have safety hazards. Like Rick has stated earlier, there are huge problems with possibilities with sensors going wrong, possibilities of crashes, and so we're really trying to make sure that as Amazon moves forward with drones, that all testing is done in requirement to the government. And lastly is the high cost for maintenance. As these drones move out into the public, there is a high chance that the public will be in contact with them, and so Amazon will need to make regulations, rules as far as where these drones will be covering and what distance they'll be covering to, as far as where they will be, who and where they'll be contacted with. For the market growth, according to Unmanned Vehicle Systems International, there's a potential of 100,000 jobs to be placed on the market for flying drones. There is also a $82 billion growth in this market. Next, to cover the pros and cons, will be Ashley.
So currently, with at-home deliveries, there are 6 to 30% of first-time delivery failures. This means that transportation costs increase exponentially for Amazon with each failed delivery. However, if the drones can meet the 30-minute delivery, customers can specify to Amazon when they will be home. It will also significantly decrease the number of delivery failures, because if the customer knows when their package will be arriving, they can ensure that they or somebody can pick up the package. This also reduces emissions if carriers are not making multiple trips back and forth to the same location. And with that, it will reduce wear and tear on highways, which means less traffic congestion as well if the third-party logistics are not driving back and forth. Additionally, using drones will provide a faster way to deliver life-saving medicine and equipment, especially to remote locations. However, some of the cons with using drones, for implementation, as Alyssa and Rick have mentioned before, air traffic control systems will need to be put into place. Each drone will need a certificate of airworthiness, an unmanned pilot, and this will be a year's worth of testing. Unfortunately, this will create a loss of jobs for delivery drivers with those third-party logistics companies, and smaller third-party logistics have the potential to go out of business. And if the drone model is successful, there will be the possibility of copycats, which means potential for drones everywhere, and that will raise problems with public privacy and security. Now Cliff will close it up by talking about how to convince the public on the benefits.
So finally, the final question is that how is the public going to view practical use of drones? And first off, Amazon is obsessed with meeting the needs of the customer. So with the use of immediate 30-minute distribution time to get the packages to the customers' homes, customers will know that that Amazon truly cares about them. Next, we have emergency packages. In a time where, especially where senior citizens or emergency situations where medical needs are not available, Amazon can fulfill those needs by shipping them by a drone. We also have last-minute gifts, especially during Amazon's peak seasons. There will be times where drones will alleviate the use of freight trucks, and we'll be able to actually give them some leverage as far as delivering some of those most prized gifts during Christmas and birthdays. We also have greenhouse gas emissions. So with the use of drones, it will obviously decrease the use of freight trucks, but we will also be able to eliminate some of those vehicle emissions as well. And also job creation. As I stated before, that there's a huge potential for this industry to grow as it's growing right now. And there's a huge possibility of allowing the public to really see that not only is the use of drones safe, but it also really gives the customer control of when they would like their packages on a need basis. This concludes our presentation. We'd like to thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.